recording. It is now 5:34. And we have, I'm going to say we have a quorum because we have 3 members because there's only 5 of us. And did you get the minutes from last month?
Yes. Well, if you got a copy, they're in my car, I didn't bring them in.
Yeah. Did you get one day?
I was rushing to the door.
If I can get this stuff out of the way, it works better. Yeah, we'll go, since there's only the 3 of us, I think we do have a quorum, let's put it that way, because we're only 5 of us in total.
3 out of 5 is
Majority. So if it's anything other than that, you'll be hearing from me. But what I would like to do is approve the minutes as you scan them or take a look at them. And then we can jump in. Now, I'm trying to get my computer organized too, because I save these files and I go to try and find them.
Oh gosh.
And me and the cloud are the same.
Oh no.
I want to shut them down.
Oh, that's never good.
But yeah, I hate that. But this is good. Okay, so this is yeah, I went through all of this line by line, and I could see what was going on.
Yeah.
And that's
Good.
that to me cleared up a lot of stuff.
Good.
I'm a numbers guy.
Yeah, I'm glad it makes
And
sense.
I just, it made sense to me. I could see where the variations
Yeah.
were easily figured. And then I said, I knew you guys, because you're kind of basically in the dark as to what the IFE is.
Right. Well, we're
That's
supposed
what
to
I,
be.
yeah,
Right.
it's supposed to be, but I figured I could. And then when I saw the second one, I quickly did the math in my head, and I said, oh,
Yeah. I think we're going to be okay now.
Yeah.
I think we understand, and that I think the negotiations went as they should have.
yes, oh yeah, but it was when you've got the parameters and you got to stay within them. But just the way it came in first, I looked at it and says, wow, that's not right. And then I says, okay. But then when the second came in and it really flipped,
Yeah.
that really blew my
I
mind.
know.
I get a little wordy when I read my
That's okay.
so I paraphrase everything as much as
That's
I
okay.
can.
I'll approve these minutes,
Okay. Okay, since we...
Isabel call in?
Nope, haven't heard anything from her. Of course, I've been out sick most of the time, and actually today's my first full day of being in action. I made it till yesterday noontime and had to call it quits because I was pooped.
So what's going around? Flu, what is it?
Flu, RSV, measles, COVID. I think that's it, pretty much.
RSP is respiratory.
Something.
Anyway,
There's
Virus.
ventilation disease, yeah, it's an inflation of it. It's like almost a version of the
They're recommending old guys get an inoculation, right?
Right.
Right.
And so,
You guys recommend that?
Yeah.
I've had my flu shot, but I wait till later because I want it to peak Christmas and January. And so I don't get it until December usually. And then the same thing with the other.
Okay.
So, the only pressing matter that we have is we've got to approve going forward with the fee schedules that we have.
Yeah, and
She will
I'll
explain that.
have that all
And
as
so I'm
part of
gonna
my update. update.
We'll turn it over to Jackie and go from there.
Is that okay?
Yep.
Okay, so you all have the update. I'll try to keep it short and sweet. I know Andy is very tired from traveling all day today. The runway reconstruction project, the items in blue are the updated items. We're waiting on that 18B aeronautical survey. That project has been approved by the FAA, so what will happen now is all of the data submitted by the Blue Sky, the consultant, will be published and available on FAA's central database once they update it. Stormwater pollution prevention plan. Chair Wood and I have a meeting scheduled for tomorrow morning to get the stormwater pollution prevention plan uploaded to the, well, it's uploaded already, but really just signed and submitted officially to the Environmental Protection Agency. So that should presumably happen tomorrow.
I did talk to the city engineer who handles wastewater, and they have a consulting company that does all the work.
Perfect.
I'm gonna see if they can be tagged on for them to do here too.
That would be advisable.
Probably easier than the idea.
That would be advisable. And we can go over when
Yeah, we can go over that.
all the requirements of it at another time. I can, maybe next meeting or another meeting in the future. We don't have as much to go over. I can.
I just wanted to tell you that because I did talk to them.
That's good. That's good. I would certainly,
City,
if that's an option, I would certainly advise using
Yeah.
that.
And I told him as such.
So no actions from the commission on the runway project right now. So we're just, get that uploaded and hopefully approved. Usually it's at least 60 days.
Excuse me, the acronym AIP stands for what?
Airport Improvement Program.
Okay.
Yes. And that's the grant funding source that most of the capital improvements that the airport gets come from that funding program. So moving on to the airport master plan update. So at this time, all master plan chapters have been reviewed by the commission, by FAA, by Mass DOT, commented. They're considered final, so I'll pull together a final master plan document. The airport layout plan has been signed by all parties, which is great news. FAA issued their approval letter on the 28th of February. So following this meeting, within the next week or so, after we get through, kind of this big push of the submissions that are due, I'll make sure that everybody has, or that Jim gets a copy and, Isabel gets a copy of that, and then we can actually close that project out. So that's all done. I know everyone worked really hard here, going over the chapters and contributing. So, thank you all for, your time, your efforts. I know it can be a little bit of a cumbersome process. So thank you for all your contributions throughout. So if no questions on the master plan, I can move on to the next page. The wildlife hazard site visit, if you recall from previous meetings, we're just waiting for the springtime for the sub-consultant to come out and actually do the survey, which will take place over a period of 2 days. So stay tuned, Jim. I'll be probably in touch with you over the next, maybe several weeks to talk about the timing of that.
Okay.
And then the big item for tonight is the environmental assessment construction analysis. So last month's meeting, we went over in pretty good detail the scope of work for the project, the purpose of the project, and ultimately, got approval of the commission to move forward with that scope of work and to move into what's called the independent fee estimating portion of that project. So what happens is because the airport selects your engineering consultant based on qualifications, FAA wants to see all contracts reviewed by a third party. And so that's when you have an independent fee estimate. That's what that is, and that's the purpose of that. FAA guidelines in their advisory documents basically say when you're evaluating the reasonableness of the fee proposal, the fees should be within 10% of one another. So, after the last meeting, Jim and I worked together to to solicit, well, really Jim solicited the IFE from a company called Televuota. She's very experienced with this type of work. She's worked in Virginia for many years, and does this similar type of work. And so she basically, and what you see, the attachment here is Gail's ultimate final fee, but what she receives is a blank copy of this spreadsheet. And you can see that the way it works is effectively the scope of work, all of those items that the Airport Commission approved as part of the project get assigned an hour. You get assigned a number of hours. How long is that, presumed to take, and what staff member is going to be completing that? So Gail will complete, independently of the third party, our fee estimate. The independent estimator does the same thing on their end. Both of them get sent to Jim. Jim looks at both of them and basically makes a determination: are they within the recommended 10% or not? And if they're not, then a negotiation has to take place. So the first independent fee estimate and Gail's fee were forwarded on February 28th, so last Friday, and Gail's fee came in outside of that standard variance. So we actually had a call with Jim, myself, Matt Karen from my office, and then Susan Winslow of Televuota, who did the fee estimate, to talk about the differences in the project and where, really where the discrepancies were lying. And so we had that call, and ultimately the three things that were determined by the fee estimator were there were some revisions made for agency coordination. These projects can tend to require a lot of rounds of review, maybe in comparison to what she's used to. Since some of the hours were assigned to the staff level that wasn't really appropriate for that task. And then the biggest thing was she made an assumption when she was doing the estimate that the overall effort would be more in alignment with what's called a categorical exclusion project, which is a kind of a simplified abridged document, where this is a full environmental assessment with all the components that are required under FAA regulations. So anyway, Susan went back to the drawing board, we went back to the drawing board, resubmitted fees, and ultimately we ended at the independent fee estimate came in at $245,550, and then Gail's final numbers, which you see in front of you here after another revision, came in at $221,400. So we're far below the fee estimator, but we're also within that 10% range that is considered fair and reasonable under the FAA guidance. So what I'm hoping for today is to have the commission vote to accept Gail's fee of $221,400 for the overall project, and also approve processing of the grant application. Ultimately, I know that Mayor Nicholson will really have to approve the funding. So Gail's total fee is one component of the project. You can see in the last several bullets there the breakdown of Gail's fee will be part of the project. There's $4,000 is Televuota's fee for conducting that independent estimate that they did. And then I also am including, or recommending that we include $1,500 for sponsor administration fees. And those are basically fees that may be incurred by the airport throughout the project. There are 2 to 3 public meetings that need to take place as part of the environmental assessment project. And you have to post newspaper ads, and those can be costly. So I've put in, $1,500, kind of assuming, I try to overestimate that way you don't get stuck in a situation where you have this high fee for an ad and then you don't have enough money within the grant to cover it. So I don't want to see you end up in that situation. So
where does that money come from? Is that part of The 221.
It'll be part of the overall grant, the 226,900. So that includes the total grant, 226,900,
Okay.
includes the 221,400 for Gale, the 4,000 for Televuota,
Okay.
and then the 1,500 for those, presumably those ads that may be needed. So ultimately, the FAA share of this project, it'll be 95%. It'll be 215,550. The Mass DOT share, 5,672.50, and same thing for the city share. So again, ultimately, I know that Mayor Nicholson really has to, be the approving authority on that city funding, but really important, I think, to have the commission's blessing and get that formal vote from all of you tonight and make sure that we're answering any questions that you might have about it.
I'll make a motion that we accept it.
Okay.
Second, Dave?
I have some questions.
Sure.
Okay.
We're gonna use the King's English here.
Absolutely.
No acronyms, please.
Yes.
All right?
Yep.
Or anything resembling that.
You got it.
We could have a separate sheet.
I know. I went through. I think I got them all this time and put it in parentheses.
So we're spending $221,000.
26.
Excuse me, $226,000.
Yes.
And I see that the city's gonna spend a small portion of that, DOT, but using the King's English, what is this $221,000 gonna purchase?
So this is for the environmental assessment project, and it's within, in accordance with the requirements of its FAA Order 1051F, which is basically the order that states any project that takes place on a federally obligated airport has to go through an environmental review process.
Okay,
So
tell me, what is this environmental review gonna encompass? And who's gonna do what?
sure, yeah.
When will that take place? And what are some of the what are aspects of this study that are going to be performed for $221,000?
Sure, so these are all included, and I know we went over the scope of work last time. So you'll see, and I'll just give a broad brush overview again. So if you take the fee spreadsheet, it includes
I have here a fee for spreadsheet. Yes, I see it.
Yep, so the orange in the front. And if you actually go into each, the summaries on the front, and then if you go into each task, each of the pages, so you have your obstruction analysis, and that's what it includes. Analysis of, analysis of your approach surfaces to see
Analysis obstruction data.
Yep. So you have
preparation of drawings.
Mhm.
Right?
And just so you know, this is all, every task in here is verbatim in the scope of work that was approved.
Identification of obstructions. Coordination, if necessary, with the historical commission, if it turns out to be of any use.
Yep. And so just to reiterate, these are all tasks verbatim that are from the scope of work that was already approved by the commission at the last meeting. So we went over all those tasks last time and got an approval on those before we even put a fee to anything. We got the commission's approval. So there's nothing that the commission has not
So this
seen.
study, once it's completed, what will it lead to?
So the study, what you will have is you will have hopefully what is called a finding of no significant impact. And that will tell you that the FAA finds that there will be no significant environmental impacts to the projects that the airport is proposing to undertake. And so just as a reminder of what the projects are that are included is the tree clearing in your approaches, if any of that stuff is needed, and then the fencing, the full perimeter fencing around the airport. So ultimately, at the end of the project, you have that rubber stamp from the FAA that says, yes, these will have no significant environmental impacts, and it gives you the justification that these projects are eligible for federal funding. The kind of cool thing about the fencing project right now is Mass DOT is actually contributing local shares to wildlife exclusion fencing. So I know that the process can seem cumbersome with these studies, but what ends up happening is you have, so the separate project, the wildlife hazard assessment, will tell you whether full perimeter fencing is justified. It typically is.
Did you say Matthew P?
No.
What did she say? You said something.
Massachusetts Department of Transportation, Aeronautics Division.
Did you use an abbreviating? Did you use
No.
Mass T or something?
No, Mass DOT.
Mass DOT.
Yes,
Okay.
yes, sorry, that one's so common that I didn't even realize I was using an acronym. So the Massachusetts Department of Transportation, Aeronautics Division will contribute the local share to fencing, perimeter fencing projects that are justified by two things. One, the wildlife hazard assessment, which is, coming up this spring, and then two, the environmental assessment. So that's one of those projects where if that's something the airport wishes to, to have, which is, it's in your master plan, it's justified,
Right.
we've gone over it, and it's a project that's been, approved through that process. I know it's a lot of approvals and it can be pretty cumbersome to get the approvals, but at the end of the day, for, a local share of, the wildlife hazard assessment and the local share of the environmental assessment, you end up getting a justifiable, funded perimeter fencing project.
What group of human individuals is going to be performing all of these listed tasks?
So these tasks will be performed by myself and also by individuals at Gale Associates.
So it's Gale Associates that's going to do all this legwork. Is that
We
right?
have, we also have
Sub-
sub-consultants. So we have a company called Newark Ecological. They're an environmental expert that will actually take a look at all of the projects. And you'll see their fees in there as well if you look on page, let's see here. Under the environmental task, it is, I think it's actually the second to last page, but you'll see at the end there are, very last page, wetland delineation sub-consultant. So we'll have GZA Geoenvironmental is the name of the wetland delineation consultant that will go around and flag all of the wetlands that are in the proposed project areas, so you'll know what the impacts could be to those wetlands, and that's something that's necessary as part of the study. And then Newark Ecological Consulting is the environmental assessment sub-consultant, so they will work in tandem with Gale to basically assess the environmental resources. So Gale will provide the services related to, physically writing the report and doing all the plans that are associated with the report, doing any sort of, project alternative drawings that might be needed. But Newark Ecological will provide services insofar as, the qualifications needed to assess environmental resources. Because they're, a certified wetland scientist, qualified airport wildlife biologist, and
So there's going to be a written report.
yes.
Oh, yeah.
Produced,
Yes.
and what's your expectation as to how long or how many pages this written report might
Oh
comprise?
goodness. It probably,
It will be some sort of tome, will it not?
it will probably be. It'll probably. We try to keep them as short as they can, but it'll be probably. Oh God, I don't want to make any. I don't want to make any promises or one way or the other. But I would say it's somewhere around 100-page document with appendices and attachments, maybe a little bit more, a little bit less. It really depends. It really depends on the level of, review and different things. But I would say you're looking at probably about a 100-page document, yeah.
Might some of the Republicans who are now in charge of government and listening to people like the members of Doge, might this expenditure of time, money, and effort come under the microscope and examination and be placed?
I am an airport planner. I do
think
not
so.
have a crystal ball. I can't tell what's happening in the future. The way we're operating right now is under current regulations.
Of course.
These documents are required.
That was a silly
Yeah.
question.
We have
No,
to,
I understand.
we have to take these steps in order to reach another level.
Right, and so,
And so they all kind of pile on one another.
yeah.
in the end, because the last environmental one was what, 15, 20 years ago?
It was long
So
ago.
it was a long time
And
ago.
it didn't assess
So it
the,
has to
you have
be
to,
brought up to date.
right, and you have to assess the short-term anticipated project. So you have to assess what is, currently on the schedule of improvements for your master plan for the short term. And you know that you have, trees, where exactly they're located, we're gonna find that out through part of the study. You have trees, that's a safety concern, that's gonna be paramount for FAA. They're gonna wanna see if you have trees in the approaches, they're gonna wanna see those come down, they're gonna wanna see that be prioritized. So you really need to know, where are those trees? Are they on airport property? Are they on private property? Where are the wetlands in relation to those trees? What sort of permitting efforts will it take to, be allowed to remove those trees and things like that? So these are all the questions, and I apologize, sometimes I know it's more questions than answers, but we're trying to answer all the questions so that you know, what does the airport realistically need to do? What is it even gonna cost to take the trees down? We can't provide you a meaningful estimate on any of that until we really know where all these things are.
Okay,
Okay?
So, what I need is a motion to vote on passage of the funding. I believe that's the right word.
Jim, use the acronyms and describe what it is specifically that we're voting on here.
So if you look actually on the page 4 of 5, in red, the actions requested by the commission, I did put the wording, so if it's helpful to just read off that sentence, that's what we're looking for.
Okay, here again, it's commission vote to accept Gale's fee, $221,400, and forward the grant application to the amount, in the amount of $226,900,000.
And this whole
To
project,
Mayor Nicholson for funding of the
environmental
final
assessment.
funding.
And it's the, we're,
Environmental assessment, obstruction,
and obstruction
survey,
analysis.
and the costs all associated with that.
Is there some title or group of letters and numbers which describe this particular environmental assessment and obstruction analysis? Is there
No, it's.
like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5? Or
No.
We don't, so I know the other projects do have that AIP, Airport Improvement Program number.
Yeah.
And you don't get assigned that number until after you have a grant.
Okay,
So
so
that's a grant number.
It's just that group of words there.
Yep.
All right.
Yep.
All right, I'm voting in favor.
Thank you.
And second, and
Second.
Andy, and I'm gonna put approved. Three votes.
This is page 505, and there isn't a page 5. It should have been page 404. That's
Yeah.
a very silly error right there for me. Sorry about that. So I hope that, everyone, has an understanding of the project and, what we really need to do, what Gail's role will be in that. And I know, David, you asked another question, the timeline for the project. So we anticipate that the grant will probably be awarded for this project sometime in August. That's typically when they've been coming in. So once the grant is awarded, it's usually a year-long process to complete the environmental assessment, where we have to do the obstruction analysis first. It may be a little bit longer than that. So, so we may be looking at a year and a half, something like that, because we need to know where the trees are before
Right.
we can, make an assessment. Well, before we need to know where the trees are before we can analyze them from an environmental standpoint of, where are the wetlands and what impact that can have.
You won't be doing the wildlife stuff this year then?
The wildlife site visit is a separate project, and that will happen. So the wildlife, and it'll be a 2-day study. That's actually, That'll be really interesting. I think you'll all find it to be kind of fun actually, and learn about the wildlife that are on the airport, the different attractants, ways to minimize them, things like that. They're fun little studies to do, they're fun projects.
Okay.
Any other questions, concerns, anything that I can bring back to the office, questions that I have not answered?
Nope. Not for me.
Thank you all.
I'm satisfied with that, and I've got the vote we needed. So, our next meeting will be April 2nd here,
We typically go first Wednesday of the month.
first Wednesday of the month. And I will, since we don't have a manager here tonight, and we needed to get this done because FAA said that they would hold our position until Friday.
Yeah.
And we had to get the vote
What
in
position is that, Jim?
of accepting the program and the funding. Because if that didn't happen by the 3rd was actually the day it was due.
Do you anticipate any
The
resistance?
3rd of March was its final date.
Do you
and they
anticipate
said-
any resistance from the mayor?
No, he knows all about it.
Yeah.
And we had to get this in, and they said they would keep the window open until Friday.
Yeah.
So we're gonna get the paperwork done and submitted, and then we will go from there. But like I said, it's gonna be in next year before the bill comes through,
Yeah.
basically.
Yeah, because the project won't even kick off until, even if we got the grant, say, even if the airport got the grant on August 1st,
Yeah.
it will still take probably several weeks to turn around the contract. And then you have to get your sub-consultants lined up, get them in the field, get them ready to go, and things like that. So there's definitely, there's definitely some.
2025 and 26 was approved federally that they were gonna do 95% funding for 25 and 26. So we wanted to be sure we fell within that period to get the maximum amount of funding, which is basically cuts our bill in half.
Yeah.
So that's very important.
Yeah, and Colleen Mayu at the FAA, she's a community planner, assigned from Massachusetts. She was very helpful and instrumental in getting the extension. So the grant applications were actually due on Monday, but she knew the timing of the commission meeting was not until today, and she wanted to make sure that the commission had enough time to go over the scope of work, go over the fee, go over everything, and have that vote. So we have that, and we have until Friday. Thanks to Colleen.
Okay.
Okay,
I'm gonna excuse myself.
motion to adjourn,
I'll make the motion to adjourn.
David?
Second that, yes.
Okay, what time we got
That was
here?
pretty quick.
Yep. The 6:07.
It was good to see you, Andy.
Yeah.
Thank
I don't know if we're gonna have the same issue next month.